Hi YouTube. I just want to do a quick review of Luke Gromen's tree rings service for any interested parties out there. Most of my subscribers probably don't even have any idea who Luke Gromen is or what tree rings is, but so let me just set it up in case anybody doesn't know and actually clicked on this video, which I don't know why you would, but Luke Gromen is a macro economist, so he's an economist who focuses sort of on the big picture, and he has his tree ring service as a weekly top 10 news stories of the week in macro, and basically gives you his take on what's going on in the world, how it affects economic matters, finance, markets, investments, money, all that sort of stuff. And the whole idea behind it is basically to help you understand and make sense of what's going on in the world, and to know how to invest your money, how to make more money, preferably not lose what you have, and so on and so forth. So for those out there who searched for this video and found it, you know who Luke is, you know what the tree ring service is. So let me just get into sort of what I would call the pros and cons of the tree ring service. I did subscribe to it for a year. And now, first of all, let me say what I like about it. I like the fact that it was sort of a concise, sort of a blog post, if you will, that had these 10 news stories. They get right to the point. Luke basically has like a headline, like a hyperlink to the news story a lot of times, or to some charts on the web, and then he gets right to telling you what it's about. So it's very concise, it's very topical, it's definitely of interest to people who are going to be interested in this sort of stuff. And what else do I like about it? I like the fact that it's weekly. I have other services that I pay for, and the monthly ones, it's kind of like, a month seems like it's too long. You want something, after 2 or 3 weeks go by, you're like, man, where's that next piece of research going? I want to get that. So I like the fact that you're getting something from Luke every week. That's a good, that's a positive on it. What else do I like about it? I like the fact that I actually share a lot of Luke's basic viewpoint. Luke would be what you would sort of call a doomer and gloomer type. He's in that sort of macro camp who thinks that things are very bad and they're probably going to get a lot worse before they get much better, if they ever get better. And he does think they will get better, but he's very heavy on we've got big, huge problems, and there's a big sovereign debt bubble and it's going to burst, and there's going to be a lot of problems, and the world order is going to get shuffled, and whatever. So a lot of that kind of stuff. And I kind of I don't agree with all of that, but it's my bias is in that direction. So reading Luke and reading the tree rings reports and all of his Twitter posts and everything, that feeds straight into my biases. I listen to him, and it's like he's preaching to the choir. I'm like, yeah, brother, tell me more about those problems we're going to have. Tell me more about what the Fed's doing wrong. Tell me more about the problems with the dollar and inflation and all these things. So there's that. So you'd think, given that, why am I not going to give 2 enthusiastic thumbs up to the tree ring service? So now let me tell you, these would be my cons on the service and on Luke's sort of macro thesis overall, if you will. Let's go through them one at a time. I'll try to do it here without rambling too much. So the first thing about the tree rings is that it does get repetitive. Now, I subscribed for a year, and I will grant this, that if you have to put out something every week, 10 news stories of the week, you're not going to have 10 totally new, fresh ideas every single week. That's a lot. So you do get a lot of stuff that's very repetitive. Luke does also tend to recycle a lot of stuff. So you will see the same hyperlinks a lot of times to the same stuff will pop up again and again. Which, number one, is actually not a terrible thing, because who wants to go looking through back issues and you're trying to remember, hold on, what week did he have that chart, or what week was that story from that he linked to? So I guess, actually, I'll have to give that to Luke. It is actually probably helpful in a way that he does recycle some of that stuff, so you don't have to go back and try to find it. And you got the link right there in your latest edition of the Tree Rings report. So that's not a huge negative. What else? Another problem that I have, or not a problem, but let's just say like a negative, sort of. Most of what you get in the Tree Rings report, you can actually get for free if you just follow Luke on Twitter. I mean, you don't get it as concise, you don't get it as sort of, I guess, developed. You don't get all his sort of developed, coherent thoughts in a nice, neat package like you do with the Tree Rings report. But if you follow his Twitter feed and regularly read all his threads and his interactions with other people on FinTwit, you're getting a lot of what's in it. You're getting most of what's in the Tree Rings reports. I mean, there's not going to be that many new things in there. And also, the other thing you can do is follow Luke's YouTube. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. And then you also get, like, every week, or maybe like every other week or something like that, he puts up a YouTube video where he answers subscriber questions. And you don't have to be subscribed to get that. You can just go to his YouTube channel and watch it for free. And that brings me to another issue, and this is probably one of the biggest issues, the price. I subscribed for 1 year, and when I signed up after I listened to Luke's interview on the Grant Williams podcast, I think it was the one with, I think that's where I heard. It was either Grant Williams or it could have been Macro Voices. One of those two places, I heard him interviewed, and then they mentioned his Tree Rings report, and at that time it was $190 for a year, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. I do share a lot of his viewpoints, and I thought, I'll give it a try. Less than $200 for a year, and it's a weekly thing. And so, I give it a try. Did it for a year. I let the subscription lapse, and now I just listened to Luke's latest YouTube video, and he mentioned on there that he was having a special going on right now. That he had, he says, oh yeah, we do this like once or twice a year. We have a special. If you're interested in the Tree Rings, come here. So I was thinking, did he put the Tree Rings on sale? Maybe I should sign up again. Maybe I'll get another year if it's like, maybe it's 50% off or something like that. So I'll get a bargain. And far from being a bargain, I just went to his site, and it turns out Luke jacked the price up. It went from like $190 a year, and he jacked it all the way up to $97 a month. So it's almost $100 a month now. Now, to me, that's absolutely crazy, and that brings me to another reason why it's actually crazy, because I can tell you firsthand from subscribing to the service. And also, Luke tells you right on the site, and he will mention it here and there. The service doesn't make you any money, really. He's not going to give you any stock picks. he doesn't give you any investment ideas other than just the very generic thing which you can get from reading all of his free stuff or listening to any interview he ever does or any YouTube videos or whatever, his Twitter feed, any place he is. He always tells you the same things. He always says, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, and he might mention a couple other things, like he'll say, if the Fed doesn't print enough, then sell everything and buy dollars. Or the other thing you can do, along with buying gold and buying Bitcoin, is buy industrial stocks, I think, or defense stocks and things like that. Those are the only, in a year of subscribing and in listening to everything he put out, like all his content and interviews and on websites and on Twitter and everything, those were the only 4 ideas that I ever saw him put out that have any relevance to making you money. I mean, and you can get that from any doomer gloomer. You can get that for free from listening to any of these guys. I mean, Peter Schiff will tell you that 2 times a week for free, except he'll tell you not to buy Bitcoin. And that's going to bring me to my next problem, where I really kind of lost confidence, if you will, in Luke's judgment and in his macro view, was the fact that during the year I subscribed, and previous to that, I guess, he jumped on this Bitcoin bandwagon, and I just fundamentally disagree. To me, I cannot see how a guy as smart as Luke could not see that during 2020, when Bitcoin was making this run up to 65,000 per Bitcoin, that it was 90% of it was because this thing was being pumped, because number one, you had all this money that was pumped out in stimulus checks given to all these people who were basically novices, and they just gambled it. They had nothing to do. They had no jobs, right? Everybody had to stay home because of the COVID lockdown. So they're sitting at home getting government checks. They're watching, Barstool Sports guy on YouTube telling them, hey man, come to the big stock casino, let's gamble this stuff. They're putting all their money on meme stocks like AMC, Hertz, and GameStop. It was a big free-for-all. And in this midst of this, you had people like Michael Saylor and Elon Musk pumping Bitcoin, And that's all it was. That's all it was. It was these people taking advantage of dumb money, pumping up things like Bitcoin and Dogecoin and other total idiot investment. You can't even call them investments. They're not investments. This is gambling. This is people with no brain cells who have free money printed by the government saying, hey, I got nothing to lose, man. Let me see if I can get rich doing this and I'll never have to work again. That's all that was. And for a guy as smart as Luke not to be able to see that, that's where I really started to question his. And the thing of it is that Luke even admitted that he didn't really, when people would ask questions about the technology and about, well, what about Ether and what about, these other, crypto investments, Luke would admit that he didn't even really understand the technology. He just said that he thought Bitcoin was the last, I think he called it like the last free market or the last functioning smoke detector, I think is what he calls it. And he thinks that it's sniffing out problems in the financial system. And I keep hearing him say this line over and over, and I'm thinking, Luke, can you not see? No, this is a Ponzi. This is gambling. This is no different than people who know nothing about the internet, back in 2000 and 2001 or whatever, putting all their money on pets.com. anything. Oh, it's the internet. We're going to get rich. Just put all your money into internet stocks. It's the same phenomenon. So that turned into a bit of a rant. But that was my biggest problem. That's where I really started saying, really kind of started having to really question, wait a minute, if Luke is this far off on Bitcoin and crypto, that's where I have to start questioning, can he be off on this other stuff, you know? Is there really a solid foundation for the rest of his macro view? You know, or am I just like, or does it just seem really believable to me because it fits my biases? So, yeah, that was an issue. So what else here? I guess some more cons would be one gripe I have about any of these people is when they don't have a way for subscribers to give, really substantial feedback. And, Luke will tell you probably that you can go to Twitter and you can engage with his Twitter threads, which is true. But you don't really get far from that. I probably have made replies on. I still follow Luke's tweets on a daily basis. He's a great Twitter follow, and I would recommend anybody to go to Twitter and subscribe. Follow Luke Gromen on Twitter, and I would suggest to go to YouTube and subscribe to Luke's YouTube channel. And I would watch his interviews. His interviews are always interesting, and his viewpoint is definitely worth listening to. But I really do have a problem if you're going to pay for a service and there's no way to really give feedback. I don't like that. I like to be able to push back on things. And Luke's YouTube videos, all the comments are disabled. If you're a subscriber, he does have a forum that you can go to, and you can, he touts that as part of his thing. Oh, you got a members forum, online forum where you can go and engage with the community. The problem is that community, quote unquote, is dead as a doornail. When I first subscribed, I put a few posts in there. There's nothing going on in there. If you want to have any kind of a discussion, you got to go to Twitter. The online forum community is completely dead. Luke doesn't go in there. At least for the year I subscribed, I never saw Luke in there once answering any questions or giving any feedback. And all you do is just one clueless subscriber asking questions, and another clueless subscriber answering, giving their guess. And that's like the 1 out of 10 times. 90% of the time, you get no answers at all. There's like no engagement whatsoever. So that's a complete bust, complete waste of time. You can just throw that in the trash, as far as I'm concerned. He should just disable it. Because there's nothing, at least at that time I was in there was nothing going on in there. So that is a pet peeve of mine, because I would have liked to have. And I'll tell you something, if I could have engaged with Luke and I could have pushed back on him on his crypto posts and some of his other posts, and if I would have got some real engagement, maybe I'd still be a subscriber. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but when you hear things, and then those same things are repeated over and over, and there's no way for you to, and you're like, it kind of starts gnawing at you. It's like, man, I already disagreed with this when you brought it up 3 months ago, and I want to push back on it, because since that time I've done more research and I found out this point, and this point. Other macro guys have brought out this point. I want to push back, and there's no way to do it. So that's kind of a you can submit questions to Luke for his semi-weekly or bi-weekly videos, whatever, but it's a total crapshoot whether in the entire year that I subscribed, I constantly submitted questions, and he only answered it one time in a year. And I'm sorry, I ain't gonna be. I didn't like paying $200 a year to get that kind of service, and I sure as hell am not going to pay $100 a year for that kind of frustration. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I have to say thumbs down on the service. I discontinued it. I can't really recommend it to anybody. If Luke were to go on like a subscription drive and slash his prices, make it like, personally, I think for something that's basically recycling of news sources with a little bit of added commentary, I feel like $97 a year would be a good deal. And if putting it out every week is too onerous, put it out twice a month. Put it out every other week. I pay $100 to get a blog post from Luke every couple of weeks. That would be a good deal to me. So, anyways, this is just. I don't want to sound like I do. Let me wrap up by saying this. I do not want to sound like I'm being too harsh on Luke and his service. I think it's a decent service. I like a lot of the things that he says. I think he's a little bit too pro-Russia and China, a little bit too glib about some of his criticisms of the U.S., but that's fine. You can take it or leave it. I get it. That's not a deal breaker for me at all. But the price and some of the other things I mentioned, that would be my feedback for it. All right, YouTube, this has been 20 minutes, so we'll wrap it up right there. Catch you next time.